Hello, everybody, and welcome to It's Time for Art. Today is Wednesday, so typically it's a paint day, but today we're going to be drawing. So put away those paints, put away that water. You don't need your brushes. Today you're just going to need your journal, your art journal, a sharpened pencil, get your pencil sharpener, and an eraser, and then you're going to need this guy here. So we're going to get to drawing what we're going to be painting later on. It's very exciting. So thank you all for joining us. We're very, very honored to have you guys. It means so much to us that you guys join us every single week here in our artist community. I heard we have a new subscriber. We had 2 new subscribers last time. We got another one today. So thank you guys so much. So let's say hi, everybody. Please go to the comment section. Say hello to Ruth Crary. She's our newest art subscriber. So we're happy to have her. Hello, Ruth. She's already posted in the subscriber group. So please, if you haven't already, go there, check out and see what Ruth has done. Don't forget also I'm going to post in the comment section all of the links to our social media platforms, where we're at, where you can find us, like tag, share, like, subscribe, make sure you hit the button so you get notified every time we upload a video. Do whatever you can. The more involved you are in our artist community, the more it grows and the more content we'll be putting out there and all that jazz. So thank you guys so much, and don't forget to do that. And then since we do have a new subscriber, I just want to say, Allison and I, who we're going to introduce here in a second, we don't know who's on with us until you guys interact with us in the comments. And we love, love, love to hear from you. So don't forget, go to the comment section, say hello to us, say hello to each other, get to know your other artists in this community, have a good time in there. And then also one last reminder, we do have a friends and family code for you guys. If you guys want to suggest to anybody you know in your circle that, who might be interested in doing some art, or you want to show off some of the cool art you've done and you think they might be interested, give them our friends and family 20 discount code that they can use at checkout for 20% off. All right. One last thing is we're asking everyone to submit a photo that reminds them of spring. You guys have till Monday, so get those in. You can email us, you can text us, you can DM us on the social, however you want to get in touch with us. Send us some photos of your normal everyday life, something that reminds you of spring, and maybe we'll draw it on Monday. And then let's say, without further ado, let's say hello to our resident artist who's responsible for all these beautiful paintings that we do. Hello, Allison Crary.
Hello, Hershey. How are you?
Fantastic. Thank you. How are you?
Great. It's my favorite day of the month. It is our draw day month because sitting and drawing is my absolute favorite thing to do. So I love to paint. I love all those things, but there is just something very zen about sitting and drawing and starting with a blank sheet of paper and having something finished at the end of it. And it's going to look like what you were working from, and it's also going to have your sort of handwriting in it, and it's my favorite thing. So that's what we're going to do. So what you're going to, and really, before we get started, I just wanted to show everybody, I went ahead and got started in my sketchbook, and I just painted some pages to get started, and I might go back in and work on some other ones, but here's my color wheel. And I just, I marked off that it was my March 2022 color wheel because it was with those colors that we were working with. And so it's just nice to have. And another thing you can do, I didn't, but if you want to label some of what colors we started with, that could be helpful. Just if you ever want to go back and reference it, something like that. I didn't, but I'm thinking about doing it. And then I went ahead and worked with the spring vegetables template. So I did that one. Here's a flower with some of the paint I had. Here's the one we did together. I went ahead and ripped that out and pasted it in. I did the little frog, and I'm saving some of this area for if we want to put quotes or ideas or thumbnail sketches, things like that. And then I did the chicks, and I did this one actually. I did the white wax paper template, or the white paper. And so, and then thanks. Yeah, it was, I like to do something really light on something dark. And I think it worked out really well with the chicks. And then I've painted a few more pages that I might do something else on it. I might go back and work in here, but these are the ones I started with.
Were those chicks inside our Vellum template package?
Yeah, you got chicks.
Oh, there they are. Yeah. All right, cool. I want to see.
Oh yeah, these are all templates. And the idea of the templates is to just get going. And I love to work with them. I drew them all to begin with. So the templates aren't for people who don't know how to draw or don't. It's that you have something. It's like a writer's prompt to just get going. And I got really into this kind of horizontal texture on the carrots and some of the texture in the frog. Anyway, so that's what's going on here. So I'm just gonna go ahead and turn the page. I'm gonna leave these for whatever I'm gonna do. And then I'm gonna fold the sketchbook like this. And then I wanna make sure everyone can see everything. So we're gonna keep our reference here. I'm gonna keep the sketchbook here. And you got this card. And what this is basically representative of what we have over here. And it's marked off into thirds. And it's the same proportion as the reference. So go ahead and trace around this guy. We cut it fairly close to size. For our purposes, exactly to size. And then go ahead and mark off the thirds where those guides hit. Just like this.
Oh, I didn't even notice the guides on the side right here. That's great.
Guides are on the side and they match the guides over here. And then if you see, we have guides over here. And if you want to make them more apparent, not a bad idea. Find them. I tried to do a contrasted color for our guides. So I've gone through and I've marked off with my pencil. So it's kind of got that sort of graphite glare to it. All of our guides. And Rashida were explaining this to each other when we were setting up today. And so the idea here is to start looking at your picture plane very spatially. And some people teach drawing with a grid. And that's a really nice way to learn how to draw. That said, you have to copy a grid, which is kind of an unnatural thing to do on top of a photograph, and the grid has to match what you're working with. And then you've got all these grid lines that you have to do something with. And every time you go to draw something from life or from a photograph, you're not going to make a grid. So this is what you kind of end up doing. So this is kind of the modified grid, which I think is the really holistic way to look at a reference and draw from it and achieve that you're working the muscle where you understand how the grid works. And those are the sort of spatial muscles that you figure out how to use to learn how to draw something accurately or realistically. So yeah, this is how we're going to do it. Everyone did really well with it last month, so I'm excited to see how it goes this month. And the first thing I'm going to kind of put in is this line right here where the dark kind of crosses through the swans. And so we just have kind of an anchoring sort of, it's not a horizon line because this is still water, but we have an anchoring line for kind of where we're going to build from and below. And if you look, because we've marked off our thirds, all right, it's about this way down on each side of our thirds. And I'm just going to make a straight line across. Now, is it perfectly straight? No, don't worry about that. All right, so I know where that is. And then the next line I'm going to drop in is kind of around here. And it's a little lower on this side and a little higher on this side. And this is about 1/3 up from the bottom, 1/3 up to this mark from here. So this is kind of over here. And this is about halfway between these two marks. And that's this line right here. Okay. All right. So we know our swan bodies fit into now because the swan kind of meets it at this line right here. So the swan body runs up to this kind of line across here where the dark water begins and ends here. And we know that this swan body is about this far in here. So our swans fit into this shape right here. And then our swans' heads kind of straddle this mark right here, and they kind of sit right here, right? So this swan, if you look, it comes above this mark and sits kind of between. Let's actually just put them in here. So I know the swan heads. I'm going to drop just a small pencil line here and a small pencil line here. So this is kind of or pencil mark here. So these are the kind of tops of our swans, okay? And this one kind of sits over here. And this one, a little lower, is going to come around this way. Look good so far?
So far, so good for me.
All right.
I think everyone's
all
really
our comments.
paying attention. Yeah.
All right. Lots of focus. It's my favorite day for that because I think we just get everybody kind of into the zen of getting these in here. Okay, so we kind of know where our swans are going to begin and end. We know sort of in space where their heads are going to fall. Let's work with the bodies, okay? And a good way to get started there is to draw in the negative space. And let's just review what that is if you're joining us for the first time or not. So the negative space is we're not going to draw the swan. We're going to draw the shape of what's around the feathers, right? And so this hits right about here on our line here. And this kind of missing, this corner that's kind of cut out, it kind of begins right about here over our mark right here. So our mark is here, our mark is here, and this shape kind of comes over like this and up like that. We do a lot of erasing on Wednesday draw night. And I just have our time for our pencil, whatever we got.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. So that looks good. So this is where, and then the feathers go off the page and they end right here. So that's pretty good information. The other thing we have going on here is this mark right here, and this kind of feather line kind of comes out at an angle like this and hits, I would say, if this is where this line works out, it's going to hit like right here. And that's this kind of diagonal right there. So this has built up really nicely over here. The next thing I'm going to figure out is I'm going to figure out where this mark is, where the sort of body starts becoming the neck, kind of right here. And then it's going to come down and come back up again. But I think this is a really nice mark. And if you look, this is almost exactly halfway straight up between these two marks. This is basically the exact middle of the page. So if we find our middle mark right about here, okay, and we know this is going to sit above the halfway point. So we're going to drop this down here. That's about right there.
So you're just looking at you're just kind of finding shapes that are not the swans to draw.
Well, this is kind of the swan. This is kind of where the body meets the neck. And I'm deciding where this point right here is in space around here. And it's about right here. And I'm going to go ahead and draw in this swan shape. Kind of comes around this way and kind of comes down like that. So we have, this is the tail, this is these sort of dark tail feathers. This is where this feather kind of begins and ends. Our next layer of feathers, we did wings the very first month. So we have some wings here. We have a wing and we have kind of got another wing on top of it right here. We can draw in kind of the body of the swan. And the body of the swan, if you look, this mark kind of falls right here. So we know the body of the swan is going to kind of end up right here. And then it curves up to about here, but it doesn't come all the way over. So it kind of begins and ends right there. So this curve of where the body kind of meets this side of the swan neck falls right about here.
Starting to look like a swan.
Starting to look like a swan, if you can imagine. And I'm looking, I kind of took it over a little too far. So I'm going to make sure that my line sits more over here. And I throw my pencil sometimes because that's part of the experience. And so, okay, so when you do something like a swan or like a neck or a finger, or let's say you're drawing the letter S, the trickiest letter to draw
Yeah.
in a typography sense, you kind of want to work both sides at once. So I've got this side of my swan neck. I kind of want to put in this side. So I'm going to be kind of working this shape all the way up. So if I'm out this way, and this is where my swan neck begins and ends, I'm going to draw in curved line this way, come up this way. And as this shape bends around here, this line is going to bend around that way.
Right, makes sense.
And I'm looking, this kind of goes straight and then it curves again. And that's going to end in space before right where the beak starts. And that is still, if you look, lower than where the feathers begin and end. So that's going to fall about right here. I'm going to make myself a mark right there. So this side kind of curves up around this way. This side kind of runs into this mark I just made. And this right here, I know is where my beak is going to end.
Right.
So we can put in the swan head, but I'm not going to yet because you always want to draw in what's least advanced or what's most behind, right? So we have most of this swan body. We don't have any of this swan body. And I'd like to kind of do these heads at the same time on each body because there's a relationship kind of between those two. So let's get this guy in next. And because of all this information we just put in, this guy is going to kind of fall right in place. All right. So we know that this is where his body ends, or she. We know that the feathers kind of fall below. So if this line is the blue line, we have a gap right here that says the feathers fall about this much below that blue water line. So I know my feathers are only going to go this far, and they're probably going to come out about this far. And I know that this line here begins here and ends right about here. And we have this mark to tell us that it doesn't go all the way over past this third. That's got kind of a, what's that gap? Like maybe like a quarter of an inch over. So this line's going to start here, going to fall about right here. And if you look, this is above that mark right here. So I know I want this connection to be higher than this one. So I'm going to go ahead and draw this in. Just like that. And so this is where the swans meet. So I am going to go ahead and it looks like it's just this shape right here kind of comes around this way. Go ahead and put in this body. Just like that. And then we're going to do the same trick we did with the other swan neck, where if we put a mark over here, we're going to put a mark over here. So they stay pretty connected past this mark. So if we have this mark to tell us where this is, we know this comes above here. So the swan necks still touch up to here. And if you look, we have this negative sort of heart space in between, and I'm going to work with that. So I'm going to draw this shape right now. And that's going to come around this way, cross this blue sort of water line, and kind of come back like this.
Such an edible and easy way to approach a drawing, you know, like using the grids and using your
mind,
just put it's so easy.
It's so easy, right? You just have to kind of keep yourself, you got to keep holding yourself accountable. And then we aren't making big lines. We aren't putting in texture yet. If you have to erase something, nothing's precious here. You just go in and do it. All right. So since we put in this line, we're going to go ahead and put in this line. And this line right here doesn't touch this line right here. And so I am just going to kind of, it's the same sort of thickness or width pretty consistently all the way up. So I'm just going to kind of follow that all the way up to here. Just like that. And now I've got this much of this neck in. Kind of the opposite is true, where I don't have as much of this neck in here because I want to work this relationship of these two heads at the same time together. So I'm going to come in and draw in more of this space over here. But to do that, I'm actually going to start putting in this beak, because the beak is happening lower and we're kind of working our way up. So this is where I've decided the beak is going to start. The beak almost, if you look, comes straight up.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to draw it kind of like a rectangle right now. And we can kind of check some of this. This falls so far. If anything, this is a little wide on mine. I'm going to bring it over a little bit. And if you look at the space between the beak and this edge here, this gets tighter. So this kind of where the neck ends and the head begins, this almost comes to a point here. Just like that. maybe like the top of a flame. So I'm going to draw that in actually. So this is the top of my beak. I'm a little high, it looks like. I'm going to kind of work this point over like this, and then this kind of snakes around like that. And this kind of comes over and down like that. This whole thing got a little wide, so just like that.
Everyone, I think everyone's really picking this up at home. Cindy Lyle, one of our longtime subscribers, she wrote, "It's working," with an exclamation point.
Working! That's exactly how you should feel. And it's just, you gotta teach yourself how to see spatially. This is so much, and exercise in just visual measurement is the best way to put it. So I've got this much in this far. I'm going to go ahead and put in, because we drew in this side of the swan's face, I'm going to go ahead and draw on the other side of the swan's face. This kind of comes up and over this way. And then let's go ahead and put in the top of his head because we're this far. And if you look, mine kind of bring it. It gets a little more narrow than I have it. So I'm going to kind of bring this in a little bit more like this and kind of come around this way. And there we go. We've got a fairly accurate swan in place. Fairly, we'll get there. All right, so now we have this guy in. Let's go ahead and draw in this guy. And so I am looking at the space between the two swans. All right. And to me, this mark right here, kind of this corner right here,
yeah,
falls kind of right on this blue line that I drew in across. So the head kind of comes up from here and is going to catch this line we already put in. Just like that. And I'm already this far, and this lines up as kind of beginning and ending right there. And so now we just have the kind of beak to put in. And the beak kind of starts actually back a little bit. So the swan's head kind of comes in like this a little bit, comes out like this a little bit, comes back around like this, and kind of comes up like that. And the way we're going to check this is we're going to check this space right here, and we're going to check some of these spaces around here. And I have some adjustments to make.
So do I made the beak a little long.
Yeah. On my drawing, on Hershey's drawing, the beak's too long. Mine might be too, actually. But for sure, if you look at this space right here and this space right here, mine's way too tight. And I see that mine needs to carve back around this way more and back around like that. No problem. That's why I've got an eraser. Something I want everyone to kind of remove from their mental process is like, once you draw something you like, you don't want to touch it again because you think it looks good. Do your very best to undo that. If you drew it once, you can draw it again. And if something's just in the wrong place, get up and move it. There is nothing, have the confidence to move a line that's put in the wrong place.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I'm looking here, this is a little tight on mine. So I'm going to come back around like this, remove this, and kind of lighten my beak. Just like that. And this kind of falls right here. And then right on the same dark blue line that we put in that kind of anchors everything, I'm going to drop this little mark right here. This little like fin that comes down and back around like this. And then I'm going to go ahead and put in this shape right here. And it comes back around like this. And we can check these shapes later, but I think it's fairly self-explanatory where they go. Just like that. Come back around here. We have our beak, and our beak kind of comes up higher than on this guy than where the head sort of starts and begins. And then there's this sort of U shape that comes up like this, up like this, kind of asymmetrically. The inner U is kind of set in kind of like that. Around this way. And there's it. Now let's go ahead and check some of this. I think mine comes up too high. So we're going to chop off its head.
Excuse me.
Around this way. Back around this way. That's our dark area. And ladies and gentlemen, we have our swans in.
Hello, yeah.
The next thing we're going to do is very lightly sort of sketch in our dark areas so we can see sort of how they affect our painting. All right, for our drawing. And we might make some adjustments after that. So this whole dark area behind the swans, I'm just going to very lightly kind of etch in.
Lori Flanagan Hagee, who's as you guys probably have seen her all every class pretty much in the comment section. Allison, she's saying that she really needed to hear what we were talking about, like, you know, if you need to move a line, like have a good, so she's having a good time.
Yeah. All right, so that dark shape's in. Then I'm going to put in these dark sort of masks that are over the swan. Just like this. And we'll see if we like them, because when you fill them in, they take on the value, and they take you can see the relationships better when you are working with darks and lights.
Okay.
There is this sort of shadow area on this side of the face. So it starts at the beak, kind of ends over here, and then comes up and over here. We're going to fill this guy in just like that. There's another nice shadow that sort of starts the beak. Fill in these dark areas on the beak too. Around this way. Fill in that guy. There's a nice shadow over here. We'll catch that. Come around this way down here. This kind of starts and finishes over here.
It kind of looks like they have like Batman masks.
They totally have Batman masks on. I love it. I love masked animals like raccoons.
Yeah.
We have lemurs in this batch.
Yeah.
And this guy over here. This kind of comes around this way. This other wing kind of comes up and over here. We know all about wings here.
We do.
This area around here is in shadow. And it comes up and around this way. Down here. So this whole area I'm going to go ahead and fill in. And then there's a dark line underneath both of these that kind of unites the two. Just like that. And then we have some of these waves that kind of work their way through. And so I'm just gonna make a few subtle adjustments on mine. My beak got a little mangled. So when I filled things in, I saw what kind of had to go there. I like that a little more. I like this a little more. This runs a little high. Just like that. Fill in some water lines, kind of. In the back. Come in through here. I'm going to hit some of the big feathers down here, around here. But our swans are primarily, because we took this so much time to draw them really intentionally in the right place, all of these marks are falling right in place. So another kind of feather right here. Begins and ends here. All right. Everybody have two swans and a pond?
I think so.
All right. I am going to go ahead and kind of half erase our registration marks on the sides. And not bad for a 30-minute drawing, right?
I mean, really, I'm really proud of mine.
Yeah, reinforce our borders. And the more you do these, you can't not get more proficient. Doesn't mean you're not gonna have a bad day where you're like, I hate this, and just take a nap, do something else, rip it out and start again. But you will develop a shorthand for these over time. No way.
Yeah, to use the grid, you mean?
Or just to do 30-minute accurate drawings in your sketchbooks. You will get more and more proficient. There's no way you can't. And the visual grid, sometimes you'll mark off your thirds, sometimes you won't, because you will start, it's a mental muscle you will continue to train. In the meantime, flip, we got dogwood blossoms to draw. Turn the page. Find your thirds and mark them off.
And if anybody's confused, your dogwood's on the back of your swans. I didn't see.
Yeah, we didn't do it that way last time. So that might be why you're confused. Go ahead and get out this guy. Trace around. It's your template. Mark off your thirds again. We're right where we need to be. Does anyone need a minute?
No, everyone's no one's commenting, so I'm sure they're
no one's commenting, so we're gonna keep going. In the event, we say this every week, but we want everyone to take advantage of it. In the event that you want to go back in, or you flipped because everybody was flipping, but you want to work your details or something like that, please watch these again. So that's what they're there for. And you can watch them over and over again. And if you want to just like draw these again, I know Julie Crary sometimes likes to redraw a project or redo a project. It's a really great way to learn. And we're going to work from there. So the way I am going to suggest that we draw in our blossoms is I would like to hit these branches first that anchor everything. And then we'll put in probably some of our leaves and some of the petals and kind of work our way out that way. So the first things I'm going to mark off are where this branch falls, and it's super simple. Drop this guy down, drop this guy over. This branch starts right here on this intersection. And it's going to go down past here, kind of curve around in here and kind of come back and around. This is pretty much the halfway point between the top of this branch. It's going to kind of fall halfway here. So this branch kind of comes around this way on this side.
We got some feedback real quick here from Michelle Port. She says she's really enjoying this much better than the meerkats.
I am very happy to hear that.
Yes.
The meerkats were our Desert Valentine's project. And I go, what's a Valentine's? I got a suggestion from Scout's mom, Dr. Emily Hoffman, on meerkats. And I go, what's a desert animal in love? She goes, meerkats are very cute and loving and breaking the internet. And I go, sold. Then we did them. Yeah. And they all looked good. But yeah, definitely a challenge. Okay, so I got this guy in. And then there's this gap that's kind of right here and a smaller branch that kind of joins it. So let's go ahead and put this in because we know where it goes. Just like that. And it joins kind of halfway through here, maybe a little over. Yeah, definitely a little over. So that kind of catches right there. We have this branch that starts right about here. I'm going to draw this side first. And it kind of comes up around this way. Definitely not all the way up. And kind of comes back around. That's going to catch another branch. I'm going to draw this space right here. That comes up and around this way. Goes back down and around here. So there's that guy. This is in front of this one, so we can kind of erase what's inside there. This branch, simple to put in. We know where it begins and ends. Kind of like that. So this one I'm going to take around like that. That's not the correct width, but we know where it goes. Let's fix that. So follows just like that. That looks good. This gets a little more narrow through here. And that is, let's get this guy in. So this falls, if we go all the way across, kind of right here. So we know this kind of begins right here, kind of comes up and over this mark right here to about this point. If we go across, comes back down like that. This triangle is a really good marker. And those are our twigs, ladies and gentlemen. Looking good. There's a little bit of variation in the twigs, so there's some kind of contour texture, I'll call it, that kind of comes around like this, that makes them look a little bit more like twigs. Just playing with some of that. You can also, I don't want to say be too technical, but stuff like this, I find to line all of that up is a little bit tedious. We know we've got these in the right general position on the picture plane.
So don't be too critical.
Don't be too critical of these little, you can be if you want to be, but, and something like portraiture, it's very important to be, because that's what can make or break what it looks like. But we're working with a twig. We're not gonna worry about that today. We're not gonna get too much. Big spatial relationships are very important. All right, so the next thing I'd like to do are some of these little leaves, because we can pop them in right away and they can only help us. So we've got one that kind of starts, I'm looking at this one, right here, crosses over into here, crosses back over in here, and is in front of this branch, but behind this one. So let's get that guy in. Good, we got one leaving. Over here, right around here. We're gonna come around this way. This one kind of runs into what this blossom will be. We've got a nice negative shape we can work with here. Keep that like that. Right here, there's another little leaf that kind of comes around. Right here, back around this way. Setting our blossom up right here. This leaf right here, it comes out really far and there's nothing really around it. So I'm going to use our thirds. So this one starts about right here and comes nearly 3/4 of the way through this region. So it's not going to come all the way over, but it's going to end like right about here. Comes up, over, and around like this. Just like that. This one kind of tucks behind both of them. Comes out to about the halfway mark between these two. This comes to the halfway mark, this comes past it. So this, the top of the leaf kind of falls right here. This kind of comes through right there. Looks good. Is that all our leaves? We're not going to do this one yet because that's, or this one because I'm going to put that, well, let's put this one in actually. More on the level of the flowers. But this one we know where this one goes. So this one starts about right here. This is pretty much the middle or the top of the middle. Right here. It begins over here. This goes all the way over to this third mark. So around this way. Back around this way. I'm looking at this edge and I'm going to draw that line. Up, around, and over like that. All right, we've got in these leaves. We've got in this branch, all pretty much where it's supposed to go. The next thing I'd like to do is put in the centers, and then we'll build our flowers out from there. So let's kind of figure out where we want to drop our centers. And so this center right here sits underneath this leaf. And we worked really hard to know where to put this leaf. So this lines up with kind of all it sort of begins here. We don't want it to go too low because it doesn't, it's gonna end about right here. And it runs into the leaf over here, comes back around this way. There is our first center that we're going to build our blossom around. Over here, we have, this guy might be, this guy's definitely too high on my drawing. Let's rip the whole thing out. Not going to do us any good over there. So this leaf really should have fallen underneath this mark. So this guy's too high too. So this is going to come down around here. See, just erase the whole thing.
Get rid of it.
Get rid of it. Not doing you any good right there. This comes up and over. Put that one right where it goes. Might still be too high, but for our purposes, we're going to keep it. Okay, so this mark straddles or intersects, the center kind of straddles that mark. So this center kind of goes through that line, over this way, down, and back around. And if you look, it gets very close to this branch. So we're going to make it closer and lower. So it's going to kind of come around, up, over, and down. Right there. I'm going to move my other parts around it. So the bottom of the petals would kind of be right here. This leaf tucks right in there. And this leaf then falls down here. This guy was just too big.
Yeah.
And that's what it was. That's okay.
One, you know, you had mentioned before we started that this one was going to be harder than the swans, and it certainly is.
It's just, there's a lot more going on. But we're going to be okay.
Yeah.
We're going to be fine. All right. So we have this center in. We have this center pretty close to where it's going to be. The whole thing is going to come together really soon. All right. This guy. We're going to send this line up here and this line over here, and it's going to kind of hit right there. So let's do that. This comes over here. This comes over here. And our center is going to come around kind of like that. And now these blossoms are going to fall right in place, or these petals are going to fall right in place because we've built our infrastructure so nicely around it. So I'm going to come back up here, and this petal kind of starts here, comes over into this region right here, comes back down. I'm kind of looking at this negative space right there. There's that petal. It begins, it crosses, we've got a little bit of overlap behind the branch right here. We have, it comes around here, catches down here, comes back around and doesn't touch our leaf right here. Around this way and back around here. This kind of hits before the halfway part, so I might have gone a little far. This guy is going to come to the halfway part and leave about this much of a gap right here. And so, and it starts sort of right here. So come around this way, shoots out this way, comes back in right there. There's our top blossom.
Yep. Coming in hot.
Falling right in place, right? This guy that I had to do some surgical work with, but we're there. This guy comes over this way, intersects the branch that we have in there. It's back around this way. We have this negative space to work with, this sort of shape that we're going to kind of copy and drop in right here. Right around like that. It's going to catch the bottom here, come back around here, and back over and up. We can look at this space. Mine's a little tight. Right back like that.
At home, she's laughing at home, and I said that this drawing was much harder, and you were like, "It's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay." She's like, "I love the therapy."
It'll be all right. Yeah, we got it. All right. So this petal right here, I'm looking at this negative space right here, this shape right here, and so I'm actually going to just kind of put that in like this. And then this kind of comes around kind of like that. We have this little wedge to help us right here. There's that blossom right there. And then we got this guy to put in, kind of the leading lady, if you will. And mine are a little high here. This guy's got to come in a little bit. This guy's got to come in a little bit. Just like that. My center got a little big on me, so this is more this sized. This is going to come around like this, over like this, back around like that. This is going to come up, over, around like that. It's going to kind of, we have this mark right here that it lines up with. Right, like this. So this is going to come up and around like that. And this one comes around down here. It's going to fall like kind of right here, up and around like that. So now we take a look at what we've got and we make some adjustments. So
I sure need to make adjustments.
Yeah, it's kind of where we are. So this branch, mine, needs to shift over. My flower is kind of in the right place, so it's actually my branch because we're working from our thirds marks. My branch needs to kind of come more around this way. And this needs to come up and around this way more. There we go. That was a healthy adjustment I just made. I'm gonna erase out this area. This comes around this way. This kind of actually starts more over here, comes around. This part of the petal right here, I'm going to drop in. Come around that way. This guy needs a haircut. It's more the tip that comes out this far, but it gets tighter. and comes around. This doesn't look too bad. Put in this line right here. Comes around this way. Comes around this way. Comes around this way. All right, so we are in that same position again where we're gonna kind of scribble in our darks. So definitely the branch. Erase out this area.
They're beautiful flowers.
Dogwoods. Dogwoods are so Midwestern, I think. I don't know if you get them in California or in Tucson,
Could not tell you.
but they are gorgeous. They kind of float.
Yeah.
All right, the bottoms of the centers are going to put in next because that's kind of really apparent where those darks fall. Just like that. All right, the darkest parts of the petals. So that's kind of this area here. This area here. Area around here. Yeah, that one. This part right here. And you can keep working on these, but we don't want these to take too long. I don't want to rush anybody, but the idea here is to get a good lay of the land, take some nice measurements.
Learn how to see those the thirds.
Yes, work your grid that we don't actually draw in. That nice mental muscle that we're conditioning. And then put it away. Because really, the exercise is to do it, figure it out, and then rest.
Okay. Looks good. Looks really good.
I think this is mine. I'm really pleased with how we kind of figured this guy out. And I give the example of, for example, like we started with the water lines as anchoring lines in the first one, and then we did the branches as anchoring lines in this one. But that's going to be for you to figure out as time goes on, kind of what you want to ground your picture in and build up from there. And so I'm pleased with where mine is. I guess I can put in some of the darks and the leaves.
Well, as you continue to shade in, I'm going to catch up. And I just want, before we say goodbye to everybody, I just wanted to let them all know that we are so excited. We hope we see them on Monday. Monday's going to be another drawing day, but it's a go beyond drawing day. Allison, you want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. We are taking requests like the piano guy. We are, please send us something you would like to. Oh, we didn't put in this leaf. It kind of comes like that. Easy enough. But yeah, we're taking requests. So send us something you'd like to learn how to draw. We're going to pick one that we think will work really well for the group. and we're gonna sit and draw it.
So anything from their live, from your lives,
Yeah.
I mean, like if you guys want us to draw it, send it in. We'll check it out. If it reminds you of spring, we'll do it.
Yeah, I'd say simpler sometimes with the amount of time we're gonna be up, but we're gonna give it the whole hour. And
That's going to be cool. That's going to show us that we can draw literally anything.
anything. Yeah, we'll just figure it out and we'll see how far we take it.
All right.
But
well, thank you,
that
Allison.
is-
Really appreciate it. You there?
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you, Allison. I guess we'll see you on Monday.
See you on Monday.
Okay, bye. Good
Bye,
night,
everybody.